Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. Here's wishing all our viewers a Merry Christmas on behalf of the entire team of Doordarshan. I am Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Christmas brings festive sparkle to the world as the Pope delivers a solemn sermon for world peace. Muted celebrations in Bethlehem due to the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi hosts a special Christmas celebration with the Christian community at his residence in New Delhi, recalls Jesus Christ's ideals and acknowledges Christian community's contribution to the nation. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar reaches Moscow on a visit to Russia, set to discuss bilateral, multilateral and international issues with his counterpart, to also meet Russia's Deputy Prime Minister. And dozens detained in Serbian capital as protesters threaten to storm Belgrade City Hall, demanding the annulment of elections. Kremlin says Serbian election protest is being stalked by foreign-backed forces. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi today interacted with members of the Christian community on the occasion of Christmas. The event was attended by prominent members of the Christian community, including sportspersons, film personalities, and also educationists. Extending greetings on the occasion, the Indian Prime Minister said that he's had warm relationship with the Christian community. The Indian Prime Minister acknowledged the contribution of Christian community in nation building. PM Modi said that members of the Christian community have played key roles in our freedom struggle. The Prime Minister also highlighted Jesus Christ's message of compassion and love for all.
क्रिसमस वो दिन है जब हम जीसस क्राइस्ट के जन्म को सेलिब्रेट करते हैं। ये उनकी लाइफ मैसेज और वैल्यूज को भी याद करने का अवसर है। जीसस ने करुणा और सेवा के मूल्यों को जिया है। उन्होंने एक ऐसा समाज बनाने के लिए काम किया जिसमें सबके लिए न्याय हो और जो समाज समावेशी हो, इंक्लूसिव हो। हमारे देश की विकास यात्रा में यही मूल्य एक गाइडिंग लाइट की तरह हमें रास्ता दिखा रहे हैं।
Prime Minister also pushed for being vocal for locally made products. The Indian Prime Minister said that locally made products are linked with livelihood of millions of people in the country. PM Modi said youth can play key roles in nation building and to make India a developed country by the year 2047.
2047 तक विकसित भारत बनाने का जो लक्ष्य है, इस लक्ष्य के साथ हम अपनी विकास यात्रा को तेज गति से आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं, लगातार कोशिश कर रहे हैं। इस विकास यात्रा में हमारे सबसे महत्वपूर्ण साथी अगर कोई हैं तो वो हमारे युवा है। निरंतर विकास के लिए ये बहुत आवश्यक है कि हमारे युवा फिजिकली, मेंटली और इमोशनली फिट और हेल्दी रहें। इस उद्देश्य से चलाए जा रहे कई अभियान जैसे फिट इंडिया, मिलेट्स का उपयोग, न्यूट्रिशन पर फोकस, मेंटल हेल्थ के प्रति जागरूकता और ड्रग्स के खिलाफ अभियान जन आंदोलन बन चुके हैं। मैं क्रिश्चियन कम्युनिटी के लीडर से, विशेषकर जो एजुकेशन और हेल्थ केयर इंस्टीट्यूशन से जुड़े हैं, उनसे आग्रह करूंगा कि वो इन विषयों के प्रति लोगों को और जागरूक बनाएं।
Lights and Christmas trees brought festive sparkle the world over. Pope Francis kicked off global Christmas celebrations in St. Peter's Square in the Vatican City. Leading the world's Roman Catholics into Christmas, the pontiff, celebrating the 11th Christmas of his pontificate, delivered a solemn Christmas Eve Mass calling for peace around the world. The Eve Mass saw faithfuls express a common desire for ending conflicts worldwide. Bethlehem, the biblical city where Christians believe Jesus Christ was born more than 2,000 years ago, cancelled its annual Christmas celebrations due to the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. And talking of Israel, 5 Israeli hostages were killed in Hamas's captivity and their bodies were recovered from an underground tunnel network in northern Gaza. Israeli army on Sunday released footage showing what it said was an operation to dismantle Hamas's northern underground headquarters in Gaza.
The bodies of 5 Israeli hostages killed in Hamas captivity were recovered from an underground tunnel network in the northern Gaza. Meanwhile, Israeli army on Sunday released footage showing what it said was an operation to dismantle Hamas's northern underground headquarters in Gaza. The Israeli forces uncovered and dismantled a network of terrorist tunnels of Hamas in Gaza. This is a network that was the northern headquarters of Hamas in Gaza. In the headquarters, which is located dozens of meters underground, we found weapons, infrastructure for production of weapons, laboratories where weapons were produced. In a somber video statement, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu mourned the loss of lives, acknowledging that the war is taking heavy toll.
The
war has a price, a very heavy price in the lives of our heroic warriors. And we are doing everything to safeguard the lives of our warriors. But one thing that we will not do, we will not stop until we achieve victory.
Meanwhile, the Israeli Prime Minister has categorically denied a Wall Street Journal report claiming US President Joe Biden halted an Israeli preemptive strike on Hezbollah in Lebanon.
I've seen false publications claiming that the US prevented and is preventing us from operational operations in the region. This is not true. Israel is a sovereign state. Our decisions in the war are based on our operational considerations, and I will not elaborate on that. They are not dictated by external pressures.
The Israeli-Gaza war is not seeing an end in the near future, as the militant groups have said they would not discuss any release of hostage unless Israel ends its war in Gaza, while the Israelis have asserted that they are willing to discuss only a pause in fighting.
On to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, where the two sides pressed on with their military operations on Sunday, striking each other's military targets, including weapon depots, fighter jets and drones, according to official briefings from the two countries. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that its forces have repelled multiple attacks by the Ukrainian army, destroying Ukraine's ammunition depots as well as weaponry, and shot down multiple Ukrainian drones. The Russian forces also shot down 4 Ukrainian fighter jets. The Ukrainian armed forces, meanwhile, continued their offensive operations and shot down 1 Russian Sukhoi Su-34 fighter jet, attacked Russian troops' concentrations, and destroyed Russian weaponry over the past 24 hours. Meanwhile, 5 civilians killed in Russian attacks on southern Ukraine's Kherson region, and 1 person was killed and 6 others wounded in Russian-controlled Horlivka as a result of Kiev's shelling. The deaths in Kherson occurred in an incessant Russian shelling of the city and the region, Ukrainian officials said. Kherson's regional military administration said gas and water supplies were partially cut off due to the attacks, which also hit a medical facility. In Horlivka, an area of Ukraine's Donetsk region under Russian control, Ukraine's shelling destroyed a shopping center and several other buildings. A top Russian minister said on Monday that Russia has the upper hand in weapons production over the West, and it intends to keep the rate of growth high. After both the West and Russia ramped up arms production for the Ukraine war, meanwhile, President Vladimir Putin and his defense minister have said that production of artillery, drones, tanks and armored vehicles is soaring. Russia on Monday said that emergency workers had put out a fire on a Soviet-era nuclear-powered cargo icebreaker ship, and the state company which runs the vessel said that there had been no casualties and no threat to the security of the reactor. The fire broke out on Sunday in one of the cabins of the Soviet-made Sevmorput ship, which is currently at the dock in northern Russian city of Murmansk. The fire, which at its peak covered an area of about 30 square meters, was put out with no casualties. Atomflot runs Russia's fleet of nuclear icebreakers and is a unit of Rosatom State Nuclear Corporation. The Murmansk region in Russia's northwest shares borders with Finland and Norway, as well as with the Barents and the White Seas. The ship, which entered service in 1988, went through an extensive upgrade a decade ago. It is Russia's only nuclear-powered ice-breaking transport ship, according to Rosatom. Next news from neighboring Serbia. The protest against election results in Serbia turned violent on Monday as thousands gathered in the Serbian capital in anti-government protest. According to the head of the Serbian police, 8 policemen were injured and 38 people were detained after the opposition protest over election results. Protesters hurled stones at Belgrade City Hall, demanding the annulment of parliamentary and local elections. Police fired pepper spray after a crowd tried to break in the Belgrade City Hall, where the local election commission is based.
There were torches, poles. Look at the number of stones. This is the stone that was thrown at the member of Ministry of Internal Affairs. Despite the protective equipment that we used, we came to a situation where we had 8 injured police officers, including a colleague with serious bodily injuries. Members of Serbia Interior Ministry were being under attack for 3 hours, refraining from intervening in the expectation that the violence would not escalate and that the violent individual would not stop attacking. Unfortunately, 8 police officers were injured on the occasion, including those who suffered serious injuries. One of them will undergo surgery today.
Meanwhile, Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić urged a group of opposition leaders to stop their hunger strike a week after parliamentary election won by Serbia's ruling Serbian Progressive Party. The total of 5 prominent opposition leaders have been on hunger strike, including Miroslav Aleksić and Marinika Tepic, who started the strike on December 18th. The opposition alleges major election law violations in Belgrade, city parliament races, including voter registration fraud, bribery and result rigging, and they all demanded it to be rerun.
To all those who are on a hunger strike, I would like to ask that they all end their hunger strike since, honestly, elections were not called at the time because despite their lack of legitimacy, we had really won the elections and they had lost by a margin of 2-1. They didn't really care. And it is a significant difference if compared to the present situation. So let them return to their duties. They can organize protests every day.
Meanwhile, Kremlin has reacted on this protest and said that foreign-backed forces were trying to foment unrest in Serbia over parliamentary and local elections. Thousands gathered in the center of Belgrade in an anti-government protest on Sunday to demand the annulment of elections a week ago that international observers said were unfair. And now on to the contested waters of the South China Sea. Amid the ongoing standoff between China and the Philippines over the South China Sea, China has said that it will not weaken its resolve to protect its territory and sovereignty and maritime rights and interests. The spokesperson of the Chinese Foreign Ministry, Mao Ning, however, said that China was ready to work with the Philippines to properly handle maritime issues through negotiation and consultation. The remarks followed a commentary published by Chinese state media on Monday, which said that the Philippines had relied on US's support to continually provoke China with such behavior, seriously harming regional peace and stability.
Firstly, China will not weaken its resolve to protect its territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests. For some time, the Philippines has been making provocations on Brunei Reef and other issues and drawing forces outside the region in those issues. China's door of dialogue remains open. We are ready to work with Philippines to properly handle maritime issues through negotiation and consultation.
China's foreign ministry has confirmed 4 Chinese workers were killed in a fire at a nickel smelter furnace owned by Indonesia's Tsingshan Stainless Steel on Sulawesi Island. In total, 13 workers were killed and 46 injured on Sunday in the fire. The fire occurred when workers repaired the furnace and installed plates at 5:30 in the morning, killing 9 Indonesian workers and 4 Chinese workers. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar arrived in Moscow on Sunday. Dr. Jaishankar is on a 5-day visit to the country from 25th to 29th of December as part of the ongoing high-level exchanges between the two sides. During the visit, the External Affairs Minister will meet Deputy Prime Minister of Russia and his counterpart, Foreign Minister of Russia, Sergei Lavrov. Dr. S. Jaishankar shared a photo on his social media platform X saying that how it started and how it is going, implying on the time-tested India-Russia relations. On to Africa now. Chad's new constitution was approved by 86% of voters in a referendum held a week ago, but opposition leaders challenged the figures. The country's military rulers have promoted the new constitution, but it had been denounced by opposition politicians, with some calling for a boycott of the December 17th vote. The turnout stood at 63.75%, the Electoral Commission said, which opposition leaders contested. The electoral authorities said that apart from some minor dysfunctions, the referendum had passed off smoothly. The results are preliminary, with the definite results due from the Supreme Court on December 28th. Tunisia held first local polls under the new constitution. The voting was the first step in determining the composition of a new local and regional national council. However, parties across the political spectrum boycotted the election. They argue that the election is the latest step in the president's authoritarian agenda. Tunisia has been in the throes of a deep political crisis that has aggravated the country's economic conditions since 2021, when President Kais Saied ousted the government and dissolved parliament. In South America, thousands of migrants left the town of Tapachulo in southern Mexico early with the hope of reaching the United States. Leading the caravan were migrants carrying a cross, a Mexican flag, and a large banner that read, "Poverty Exodus." The procession came just days before Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrives in Mexico City to hammer out new agreements to control the surge of migrants seeking entry into the United States. The migrants are heading through Mexico to the United States to escape violence, economic distress, and negative impacts of climate change. This month, as many as 10,000 migrants were arrested per day at the US southwest border. You're with us on DD India Live, still to come in the bulletin. Sri Lankan President grants an amnesty to more than 1,000 convicts across the country to mark Christmas. Australia to provide $235 million to Bangladesh for dignified return of displaced Rohingyas to Myanmar.
Year 2023 can best be described as an year filled with excitement, challenges and accomplishments in the world of sports, both for India and the world. All this and lots more in our special Sports at the Rate 2023 flashback in our program called Game Changers.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I am Tanvi Taneja. Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe has granted an amnesty to more than 1,000 convicts and released them from jails across the country to mark the festival of Christmas. Among the 1,004 freed on Monday were Sri Lankans jailed for not being able to pay outstanding fines, Prison Commissioner Gamani Disanayake said. Next, an update on the flight carrying Indians that was grounded in France. According to highly placed sources, that flight is landing in Mumbai at 11:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. A couple of people have been detained. Rest of the people are in that flight and they have been deported to Mumbai. Australia will provide around $235 million to Bangladesh for dignified return of over 1 million forcibly displaced Rohingyas to their motherland in Myanmar. The commitment came when outgoing Australian High Commissioner in Dhaka made a farewell call to Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina at her official residence in Dhaka on Sunday. During the meeting, the envoy reiterated his country's support to Bangladesh for dignified return of more than 1 million forcibly displaced Rohingyas to Myanmar. And now we take a look at other stories making news around the world. Hail fell in a town in Australia's New South Wales on Monday, creating a whiteout landscape on Christmas Day. Weather authorities said that they had received reports of large-sized hailstones, over 5 centimeters, falling in the same region. Oaxacans savoured ornate taproot sculptures during the traditional Night of the Radishes. Every year, artists and gardeners gathered the day before Christmas Eve to exhibit radishes intricately carved into the designs, reflecting themes from religion to daily life. The origin of this unique tradition dates back to the 16th century when the Spanish introduced radishes to Mexico. Peruvian police carried out a drug bust operation with the special help of Santa Claus in Huacal near the capital Lima. Officer dressed as Santa broke down a door with a sledgehammer and helped to detain suspects. 2 men were arrested for selling drugs. The annual Surfing Santa Day on Florida's Cocoa Beach saw hundreds of surfing Santas and elves take to the waves. The 15-year event, which began as a simple family beach day, has grown into a beloved tradition for locals and visitors, blending Florida sunshine and Christmas spirit. The participants enjoyed live music, a costume contest, and watched the Santas ride the waves. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi virtually participated in the Mazduron Ka Hit, Mazduron Ko Samarpit program at Indore on the birth anniversary of former Prime Minister of India, Atal Bihari Vajpayee. On the occasion, Prime Minister Modi handed over a cheque of about $26.93 million pertaining to the dues of the Hukum Chand mill workers. The Indian Prime Minister also laid the foundation stone for a 60-megawatt solar power plant in Khargone district. Prime Minister Modi addressed the occasion and appreciated the efforts of the mill workers.
इंदौर के लोग 25 दिसंबर की तारीख को श्रमिकों को न्याय मिलने के दिन के तौर पर याद रखेंगे। मैं आपके धैर्य के आगे नतमस्तक हूं। आपके परिश्रम को प्रणाम करता हूं। साथियों, मैंने हमेशा कहा है कि मेरे लिए देश में 4 जातियां सबसे बड़ी है। ये मेरी 4 जातियां हैं, मेरा गरीब, मेरा युवा, मेरी माताएं, बहनें, महिलाएं और मेरे किसान भाई बहन।
India's President Draupadi Murmu led the nation in paying tribute to Atal Bihari Vajpayee, former Prime Minister of India. She offered floral tributes at Sadaiv Atal Memorial in New Delhi. Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and several other leaders also paid floral tribute to the late leader. Tributes were also paid at the Parliament House to the former Prime Minister on his birth anniversary today, which is also observed as Good Governance Day in India. India is also observing the 162nd birth anniversary of eminent freedom fighter Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla and Rajya Sabha Deputy Chairman paid tribute to Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya at the Central Hall in Parliament on his birth anniversary. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, BJP National President JP Nadda and other leaders also paid their floral tributes. Indian Army Chief General Manoj Pandey on Monday visited Poonch in Jammu and Kashmir and conducted a ground review in the Rajouri-Poonch sector, focusing on the ongoing counter-terrorism efforts and reinforcing the security grid in Jammu and Kashmir. The visit follows a terrorist attack on 2 army vehicles last Thursday, resulting in the sacrifice of 4 soldiers. General Pandey interacted with ground commanders, urging a professional and resolute approach against these challenges. Several cities across northern India were shrouded in a thick layer of fog early amid cold weather on Monday. Video footage showed streets in Srinagar, Amritsar, capital New Delhi with heavily reduced visibility. As per India's meteorological department, dense fog was likely to persist over parts of northwest and central India over the next 3 to 4 days. That's all in this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter and Instagram. You can also find us online at ddindia.co.in. We will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Tanvi Taneja. From my entire team in New Delhi, thank you for watching. Namaskar.